Hello, I wanted to thank you all for joining. We're going to get the webinar underway right now, and thank you for joining the Safety Risk Management webinar with K&J and OTB Solutions. I did want to go through a couple of things first before we got into the meat of the presentation. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Dick Faderly from OTB Solutions, and as you can read, I've been involved with process automation technology, and specifically in the transit industry for a number of years now, and specifically focusing upon automation of safety and risk management processes in transit agencies. Also with us today, I'm happy to welcome Jim Doherty. Jim is with K&J Consulting and has a long and storied career in the safety and risk management arenas within transit agencies. And has been involved with K&J as a consultant now for a number of years, and very specifically has been involved with the 670 rule, PTASP, agency safety plans, the gap analyses that are involved, and actually doing safety and risk analysis for agencies that are out there. And I'll let him introduce himself in a little bit when I transition to him. But first, before we start, I wanted to go through a couple of logistics. You all are on mute right now, but we do have the capability for you to ask some questions, which we will answer. We do have a Q&A session at the end of the event where we'll be able to answer some of your questions, hopefully all of them at that time. And the way that you get to them is if you look to the right of your screen, you will see a Q&A area where you can post a question, and we will go through those as we can during the presentation, but also very definitely during the Q&A session at the end. So what we'd like to start with is a little bit of background on agency safety plans, the PTASP rule, and kind of what's going on in terms of the current state with that. But also very specifically what you can expect next in terms of enforcement and the kinds of things that you need to keep in mind as you go through the process of creating your safety plan, implementing it, and deploying and using a safety management system throughout your organization and what's involved with that. Then we'd like to transition a little bit into how technology can help. And very specifically talk about some of the things that we've done in that arena to see if it resonates with you all, and potentially how it can help you all in your implementation of your agency safety plan and SMS system. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jim without further ado. Jim.
Oh, thank you, Dick. Appreciate that. And for those out there, just letting you know, I've been in the transit industry. It'll be 40 years in February. So I've been in this business a little bit, 35 working for different transit agencies, and actually retiring from the Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. But wanted to talk a bit about the rule, or what we call the 673 rule. Some of us, I think, were caught by surprise. Some folks thought this rule would never come to pass, and it did, and it's known as the Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan Rule. That's 49 CFR 673, and actually it applies to any recipients and subrecipients of financial assistance under Formula 5307. So with that, this 673 rule was effective initially in July of 2019. However, FTA delayed the actual implementation date by a year to July 20th, 2020. And then with the COVID pandemic hitting us back in the early part of the year, the FTA, they didn't extend the rule, but what they did was called delayed the enforcement of the rule until December 31st, 2020. And just want to make just a point that that's just around the corner. That's only a few short weeks away, and I'll mention a little bit more that that what needs to be done, as you can see here, we're even talking, this is getting the sign off and approval of the accountable executive, the governing board, and if you're a rail transit property, state safety oversight agency. So there's a lot to do in a short time if you haven't already completed this process. And just a little bit on some of the reasoning and logic. Some of you may know about SMS, or safety management systems, being that it's to reduce events, incidents, injuries, and fatalities associated with safety failures. We've been a safe transportation mode for many years, but we also want to become a safer mode from where we're at, because no fatality is acceptable. So we have an example that was in transit that possibly could have been avoided in the aviation industry. That way we're not picking on any transit agency, but there was a significant event that happened in Seattle. This event involved a mechanic who worked for a company that provided maintenance for Alaskan Airlines and took off with one of their airplanes. The preliminary report indicated that several people had mentioned some things that might have brought him to the attention of the individuals that could have actually done something about this potentially. Airports in and of themselves, the airport facility is not required to follow SMS rules, but want to point out airlines, aviation, like American, United, they are required to follow SMS, and SMS actually came out of the aviation industry. But it's possible that a unified risk hazard log, including employee self-reporting, confidential reporting, as well as other aspects of the SMS, could have prevented this event from happening. It's also possible that the risk of having someone who wasn't authorized to fly a plane might have been identified during a threat or a hazard analysis, and the procedures in place to prevent things like this from happening in the first place. So we all know that in safety, we do a lot of what we call the what if, and that's how we come up with some of our preliminary hazard analyses, what if this, then that. But we do think it's illustrative of the potential benefits of a robust safety management system. All of this must be woven into the fabric of the agency, of the organization, to have and sustain a strong and thriving safety culture throughout any agency. And we have to certainly have an organizational culture to build that safety culture in order to move forward. So how do we comply? December 31st, 2020, that's this year, is literally just 5 to 6 weeks away. We have a few major holidays that folks will be taking off, possibly from work. So one might consider adding resources that would include staffing. However, we know in a public setting that may be difficult at this point to get somebody even on board by the first of the year, but to also retain one consideration, outside consulting support and utilizing technology to gain efficiencies. Technology can help us in many, many ways, and these options may assist in meeting the minimum compliance requirements and demonstrate a commitment to the principles of SMS. We want to look at how far along are you in creating and getting sign off by your accountable executive, CEO, executive director, president, whatever the person sitting in that role is titled, but also presenting to the governing board and getting their sign off on your public transportation agency safety plan. Have you looked at hiring an outside agency if you're not far along to complete this? Because we know in transit, we're already busy providing our day-to-day operations. And, we may look at technology to help us by reducing the effort that we put into repetitive tasks, automating the collection of our information, improving transparency in the process, because transparency in public transportation is critical and vital. And we also want to look at potentially the use of technology to gain efficiencies, to implement our SMS and establish our safety culture. So this simply isn't just complying with a rule. This is really about changing the way that we think, that the organization thinks, prioritizing safety as important as service schedule, any of the other items that we provide. and how it becomes a part of our culture and our organizational fabric. So as we look at staffing considerations, we have our given state of our PTASP. Can your existing staff complete the development and ensure compliance of the rule? Risk of not compliance can result in a loss of up to 25% of your federal formula dollars. So there's a critical concern right there, along with the 5 weeks that we have. And if we look at work days, we're probably talking 20 days. So do you have the staff? Do they have the knowledge for developing your ASP? Do they have the sufficient skills, the depth and the breadth, and the ability to maintain and execute the plan and convince management that it's the right thing to do at the right time? And, do we have our plan? Are we ready for review? We're really looking at a time crunch here, because time is running out. Time is running out with December 31st, just next month. We look at that. How are we going to also develop our safety performance measures? We have our 4 performance measures that come out of the 49 CFR 670 rule to address fatalities, or actually track and measure fatalities, injuries, both employee and customer injuries, our safety events that occur within our agency, and our system reliability or state of good repair, which is somewhat new in the safety arena. So those measures need to be complied with. And so just remember that your plan has to be developed, signed off on by the accountable executive, approved by the governing board, and approved by your state safety oversight agency if you're a rail transit property by December 31st, 2020. So certainly critical. We're certainly here to help you with that. And I thank you for your attention at this point. And Dick, sir, back to you.
Yeah, so as Jim was alluding to, we definitely think that there are opportunities here to leverage technology, particularly around the area of gaining efficiencies and of being able to integrate a diverse set of information that you need to be able to have a view on, if you will, to be able to make the appropriate decisions, to make sure that the things that need to be done are getting done, and for you all to be able to provide that transparency, not only back to your employees, but to your ridership, to your management, as well as the FTA. And really, it isn't just about compliance, but one of the advantages of using technology is that if you're using process automation, if you have a set of automated processes rather than a bunch of binders and paper processes that are sitting out there, you know that people are compliant because they're using the system. The way to file those incident reports, to have employees self-reporting, to manage your corrective action plans, if they're all part of a integrated automated set of processes, then you're ensured that you're going to be compliant just by the nature of the way that process automation works. And so to that end, as I noted at the beginning of the presentation, we've been working with transit agencies over a good number of years, very specifically to automate those safety and security processes, to provide a unified risk and hazard log, to manage the employee self-reporting. And one of the things that we focused on is making these processes specific to the public transit agency arena. So this isn't a set of capabilities that have been adapted from job site safety requirement systems or from SMS systems that are deployed to airlines. We have tailored this set of modules to meet the needs that are specific to Rule 670 and 673 and the requirements that public transit agencies have. So when we look at it, we're looking at, as I said, a unified risk and hazard management log that's integrated with the employee self-reporting and allows you to also, if you're doing construction, manage the certification process and transition those into revenue operations and so on and so forth. But just as importantly, it also provides for the ability to do your performance reporting in those areas that Jim mentioned: fatalities, injuries, difficult for me to say today, safety events, and system reliability. Being able to integrate those disparate sources of information into a unified way to do reporting is really a critical aspect of this. And what we've developed is all up in the cloud, but we can deploy it to your own servers or your own hosting environment if you so desire. And one of the critical components of the safety management system, as defined by the FTA, is that the ability to manage your documentation and your record keeping. And that is a core capability of the system that we have developed. But one of the things that we really wanted to pay attention to was the usability of the system. And to that end, not only is the system available online, but it's also available offline, as well as through mobile and tablet devices. We recognized early on that a lot of this stuff is not happening while you're sitting at your desk. Employee hazard or employee self-reporting and where the incidents happen and the investigations aren't typically happening while someone is sitting at a desk. And so making sure that we're focused on being able to access this information by anyone in any location at any time is really a critical piece of the capability that we provide. All of that is managed by a very flexible set of workflows that you can control to ensure that the right person at the right time is getting the right information that they can then share and do their jobs with. All ensuring that they're being notified of the things that they're needing to work on. So with that, like I said, one of the things that we've really been focused upon is providing a usable interface that pre-fills out as much information as we possibly can to reduce the amount of key punching, if you will, that people need to do, and to ensure data integrity. So there's less work on the back end cleaning up information out of emails and out of spreadsheets that have been shared, and making sure that you have the ability to do meaningful reporting, and that you can ensure that the corrective action plans that you're creating and the hazards that you're identifying and mitigating are all managed in an appropriate fashion. But just as importantly, that the information that you have about those items is clear, is concise, and is consistent as you have the safety management system running throughout its life over the next weeks, months, and years. But as we alluded to, also providing that transparency into where things are, not only in terms of the process, but in terms of your system, and how your corrective action plans and mitigations that you're putting in place to reduce hazards and risks, or to address particular incidents, how are they performing? Are they really reducing the risk? Are you seeing an uptick in risks proactively in a particular location or over a particular set of assets? So maybe you can react to the things proactively rather than retroactively, and being able to not necessarily predict, but to jump on things more quickly than you would be able to otherwise. So all of that is really important in terms of not only your ability to provide the kinds of performance measures and information that the FTA requires, but also one of the things that we focused upon is making sure that our dashboards and reports are not only clear, but they provide information that you can very definitely take action on from within the context of the dashboard. So you don't have to jump out and do separate emails and do things out of the context of the information that you're receiving. The other critical piece to all of this in terms of adoption within your organization and having a truly integrated system that is promoting the safety culture is to make sure that the right resource at the right time has all of the information that they need to be able to take the actions that they need to be able to take. And so one of the advantages of a workflow-driven system is that you know who's going to get it, when they got it, how long it's taken them to react, whether or not they're kind of behind what your timeline is. And all of this very much plays into your ability to clearly and concisely manage your corrective action plans and your mitigation plans. So with all of that in mind, really being able to ensure that the right information is had by the right person at the right time, that you provide a clear and actionable set of information for people to react to, and that you provide that transparency back into your organization and even potentially back into your ridership to make sure that you're really focusing on, as Jim was noting the proactive reduction of injuries and safety events. It's really what a safety management system is focused upon doing. And as we said, all of this was developed very specifically with transit agencies in mind. And as the rules change and as guidance changes, this system will automatically be updated to adapt to those particular changes. So with that, what I wanted to do was open this up to questions. And one of the ones that's sitting in the queue fairly early on, based on some of Jim's comments, was the question for you, Jim. What have you seen in terms of the industry, in terms of how far along people are with their PTASP, their ASP plans, and actually having things ready for approval or ready for review and certification?
Well, thank you, Dick. Certainly a good question. And what we're seeing is that folks are, some of the smaller agencies aren't quite as far along as some of the larger agencies to actually complete their PTASPs. One of the big areas basically is the safety performance reporting, which is a requirement to have those 4 safety performance measures. Some agencies are have their backs against the wall with things to do in short order, and with the holidays that is concerning anytime you have a public board. It seems that we're seeing that some of the bus agencies may end up falling behind the 8 ball, if you will, to complete in time, and for the accountable executive to safety certify, or to certify, I should say, that their document is compliant with the rule. But there are some out there, though, that are also very going to be very close, even on the rail side, to actually accomplish that task. So we're seeing a mixed bag, but primarily some of the smaller agencies are having a little bit more difficulty at this time. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. And I think we've seen something similar, and definitely have heard anecdotally that there are a number of agencies out there that, with all of the stuff that's been going on out in the bigger world with COVID and all of those implications and everything else, agencies are hard pressed right now, and being able to utilize a system such as SSIMS to improve their efficiency, to reduce the rework, the administrivia, if you will, and being able to use that all as a way of implementing an effective SMS, and to your point, getting to the ability to provide that performance information both internally but to the FTA as well, can be truly a game changer. One of the other things one of the other questions that came up was the ability to integrate this with other systems. And I'm sorry I didn't mention that earlier. Yes, this system can integrate with your internal systems, whether it's deployed on your own servers or is up in our cloud, and can be used to pull in that performance data that Jim has been referring to throughout his comments, both from external systems as well as publicly available data, to provide a really rich set of information in terms of the kinds of performance metrics that you all need to report on and that you all choose to report on beyond the 4 that are specified in the 670, 673 rules. So with that, unless I see any other questions out there, which I don't at the moment, I will wrap this up. And I wanted to thank you all for attending and wanted to be respectful of your time. But again, if you have any other questions, please, we would love to give you a demonstration of our safety and risk management module or any of the other modules that are out there. Please reach out to me at the email address shown. And you can also reply to the invitation that you all sent for this particular event. And this has been recorded and we will be posting it. So please feel free to share it broadly once we make it available on YouTube. And so, Jim, unless you had any other comments, I was going to wrap it up and say thank you very much for your participation, Jim. It's been invaluable.
Thank you. I want to say I appreciate that, and for those that were in attendance, and certainly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all. You have a good afternoon.